So I've come here to the rivulet. We're not in the great wilderness of Tasmania, we're here in South Hobart. In the part of the rivulet that was formerly known to everyone as Cascade. So there's the Cascade Brewery up there, there's a park just here. People are having a bit of a picnic. The dog and I are here trying not to get too wet. I'm here because I'm trying to get to the place that Hobart was back in time. Moving back through history is kind of like trying to negotiate your way through a maze of doors. Some doors have locks with them and keys that you can use to open them. Some other doors don't even have handles that you can push or pull on, and some doors are wide open, but when you move through them you find that there's a Kafkaesque quality to them, where there's 2 or 3 more doors more to open, and so on and so on. This part of the rivulet is a lot like most of the rivulet was when settlers first showed up in Hobart town. You've got these dinosaur looking leaves, and you've got these grey-white stones that the water is running across. But the reality is that this part of the stream probably looked completely different then. And it's just so hard to imagine what it was like to begin with. In fact, it's kind of hard to know exactly what's going on right now.
In 1804, surveyor George Harris produced this map of the rivulet. Traversing up from the camp where the Hobart seabed is now, he made his way pretty much as far as it goes. The work that he produced was not completely accurate when it came to the bends in the course of the creek. Importantly, however, he describes the vegetation within the incised course of the stream. He refers to it as thick brush, a 19th century term for what we now regard as temperate rainforest ferns. Along the way, Harris witnessed something that no longer really exists, a series of stepped waterfalls where the rivulet cuts across a fault line. Significant in height, they poured into a giant pool at the bottom. Theoretically, they could be returned to us, should we all agree to scrape away the centuries of concrete and masonry that have been heaped on top of them. Cascade Brewery is Australia's oldest remaining. When it began, Hobart Town had 55 licensed pubs, serving a population of 10,000. Massive quantities of booze was drunk. Today the business is owned by the Asahi Group Holding Limited and listed on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. This photo from 1884 shows the facility as it was, an industrial outpost of the city further downstream. Cascade Brewery has altered many times. At one stage a fenced park was found out the front, in which deer were kept. Almost from the beginning, the surrounding hills were used for agriculture. For all the things that have changed in almost 200 years, perhaps the hills have changed the least.
This big, wide expanse of grass is here because it used to be farmland. It was cleared of all the native Tasmanian plants, and then different produce was put in here at different times. Now it's one of the last few really good bits of land that hasn't been turned into a subdivision anywhere near the middle of Hobart. And for that reason alone, it's interesting. It's pretty warm right now, so the dog and I have taken some time out in the shade, and we're sitting here in the remnants of the Cascade Tea Garden, which was a restaurant kind of thing that people would come and sit in. It was up there, you could enter it from the street level and look out down across the rivulet.
The garden's entrance was where the tram got off. Electricity supply was taken from the tramway, and in the evening the gully was lit up in decoration. When summer came, it became a place for enchanted entertainment.
It's the middle of the day, and as I've climbed up this hill, I've found that my heart rate has elevated a bit too, not because of the exercise so much, but because I discovered something. I'd seen these stones here down from the main road over that way. Between the trees I could see some shapes, and I thought maybe it was just some foundations that belonged to a home or some other sort of building. When I climbed up here, I looked at them closer and they looked like maybe some sort of garden, you know, an extinct English garden, a rose garden or something like that. I thought it could have been. But I kept looking, and I looked and I looked, and then I realised that all of these stone formations are letters. You can't see them when you're right on top of them. But this one here is the one I noticed first. It's an E. You can see the long straight line and then the three shorter straight lines. This letter here is a D, and there's more letters that way, and there's a whole bunch back that way. And what it says is Cascade Gardens. Now, it's one thing when you read about something and then you go find it for yourself. That's interesting, but it's a real thrill to be able to make a discovery in the person for yourself at this late stage in Hobart's development. Anyhow, it's just a real thrill to find something like this for yourself. Yeah, just amazing.
The creek has been largely tamed today. In the beginning, it was harnessed. This photo is of Cascade Brewery's giant water wheel, circa 1890. This 1833 painting by Louis-Auguste Sanson is titled Wheat Mills near Hobart Town. He was the official artist on the French ship Astrolabe. He visited South Hobart, and among other things, he recorded that even then, the locals enjoyed wandering about with their dogs. While everyone is looking at the brewery is looking back at the town. This circa 1948 photo is a mystical view from the top. There are two dates written on the front of the building, 1824 from when it was established, and the second one is 1927. This is when upper floors were added, and the latest Swiss lager making plant was installed. This 1890 painting by Horton Forrest is titled Cascade Brewery and Mount Wellington. Up on the hill behind the brewery is a mysterious building, a building that has gone missing.
Don't worry, it's not a scary monster. It's just me and the dog. We're up here in the ruins of Mount Todd. This was the home that used to belong to the head brewer of the Cascade Brewery. He used to be able to come out the front of his home, where I am now, and look down at the brewery and beyond all the way down to the Derwent River. It's one of the many houses around Hobart that have had their arse kicked by Mother Nature at one point or another. When this place burnt down, it didn't look like this. There weren't as many trees here. There weren't a lot of trees when the Cascade Brewery was actually built because they'd all been chopped down. The people that settled what's now called South Hobart chopped them all down to make homes, to heat their homes and to cook food. Today, there's a lot more houses and the integration between the homes and the bush is greater than ever. The other thing is that the gardens that people have now are different. Back when the last big fire came through in '67, the most fashionable type of garden was an English style garden. You had a lawn and a bunch of European plants. There's still plenty of houses around like that, but perhaps the more in vogue thing now is to have native Tasmanian plants because they grow well, because we're in Tasmania. Unfortunately, they're a lot more combustible than European plants. They tend to explode if it gets really hot. When this place burnt down, there was a saying in Hobart that everybody used to know. School kids knew it, and people might have known it as the last phrase to run through their head when the flames of summer came in. That saying is, never eat without salt.
Never eat without salt. North, east, west, south. 1 bell, 2 bell, 3 bell, 4 bell. This circa 1900 photo is of Bathurst Street in the middle of Hobart. In the middle of the image is a fire tower. It was guarded 24 hours a day. If a lookout spotted a fire, he would ring a bell between 1 and 4 times. If the bell tolled 4 times, this meant there was a fire in the southern direction. Conflagration is wont to visit the capital. In 1967, fire trespassed into South Hobart. Cascade Brewery was almost destroyed, having to be rebuilt quickly. The flames ripped down the rivulet, riding the foliage along the waterline, reaching Gore Street in spectacular fashion. Among other things, the Gore Street Mill had been home to the Artillery Brewery from the 1840s to the 1880s. The ruins at the very bottom of South Hobart were built upon. Today there is something new there. And a century from now it may have all changed. Changed once again.